very much. Just unmute myself first of all. Just going to share my screen. I've done a little bit of a presentation, so 2 ticks and we'll get that up. Okay. Can everyone see that okay? Hopefully there's a thumbs up. Fantastic. So yeah, so I was involved in the Belfast Hills Landscape Partnership Scheme. We started it back in 2009 now, a long time ago. So we are officially finished our sort of main section of it, and we're in our sort of legacy phase. And one of our important bits of our legacy has just really been connecting with people. So wanted to chat to you people even during a pandemic. So it's been a very weird year for all of us, as I'm sure you know. One of the key people that we've been working with are our volunteers. This has been the main legacy from our landscape partnership scheme. We had a team of, well, there's over 100 on the mailing list, but there's about 30 people who are really regular out with the volunteering. And when the whole lockdown happened and we had to say, sorry guys, we're not doing anything right now, there was an awful lot of very disappointed people. So we were, when things slackened off in terms of the government legislation, in terms of having people out, we were right. Okay, let's get there, let's get out and let's get things happening again. Very first thing that we started doing then was looking at the risk assessments, reading through all the government guidance, trying to decipher, okay, what applies to volunteers, how's this all going to work? You may be aware there's another organisation called Volunteer Now, who are a governing body who help look after all things volunteering in Northern Ireland. So we did a number of virtual meetings with them. We chatted through different things and shared ideas with different organisations similar to ourselves in terms of, well, what was possible, what was sensible, what was and what wasn't. So we came up with our own sort of risk assessment as to how we could safely have people out following all the government rules. So then the next really important step for ourselves was the communication, specifically with our volunteers. So before we actually met with any of them out on site, we had a few Zoom, what we're having here today, and we chatted to them about what we were suggesting, about what the proposals were, and how it was all going to happen for us. My screen is sending up a message saying the internet's unstable, so hopefully I don't lose you here at any point. Apologies if something goes wrong. So to me, the communication was very central to the whole thing, that we asked them what their concerns were and tried to address all of those. A number of our volunteers are quite elderly, and some of which are over 70, and they've been involved in other organisations who'd said, no, you can't come back, you're just too high risk. And we particularly worked with them because they were so keen to come back. They were like my, life has been turned upside down. I no longer get out of the house. There's nothing going on. I really, really just want to get out and volunteer again. So we made sure that we addressed if they had any specific health issues or any of their concerns, to make sure that they could also come back with the group. To us, the very central thing was about creating a safe environment to ensure that everyone got their own space around them, that there was no sharing of tools, that we made sure that people, addressed their own health issues before they came, that they made sure that they were feeling well, that no one had a cough, that no one had anything going on. And this was very much stressed, that the volunteering didn't just start when they came with us that day. It started when they were at home, assessing how they were and if they were going to come out, and sort of the emphasis of, look, it doesn't matter if you're signed up, and I know the numbers are limited. If you're not feeling well that day, just don't show up. And so we created an environment that everyone felt safe, that they could come along, that they could be part of the group. And often it involves a fair bit of reminding people that, by the way, keep apart, and always done in a very fun and jokey way, in terms of like, I know they're lovely, but please just keep your distance from each other, and no need to get quite so close and personal. So just tweaking some way that things were done, and silly little things like, for instance, we'd have always had a big box of gloves at the beginning of every task, and people just rummaged in and found a set of gloves and got on with things, instead of issuing everyone with their own set and just like, nope, you've got to bring your own gloves and keep your gloves on at all times. things, unfortunately, like we miss, rather than cups of tea, we used to have always tea together, and instead volunteers bring their own flasks, and we provide biscuits now and individually wrapped, which environmentally isn't great, but in terms of the current health and safety and trying to keep people separated and everything, now we make sure even our biscuits are socially isolated. So making sure that we do those little things, get everyone safe. Another issue then we had was with so many people wanting to volunteer. We had not only our normal regular volunteers, but actually we had so many new people getting in touch with us, people with various different things happening in their lives. They'd maybe been made unemployed, they had been off on furlough. They just had extra time on their hands and wanted to do something meaningful with it, and something that gave them purpose getting out of the house. So as more and more people signed up, we're going like, we've got too many people, we can't have them all out at the same time. So we then created more and more opportunities for the volunteers. So we used to be mainly just on a Thursday morning, whereas now we do Monday mornings, Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings. With the emphasis on them, please just sign up for one of the groups. So we've created a whole new emailing system and way of booking all their different events to make it as streamlined and simple as possible, so that we don't ever get too many people out at the same time. I thought I'd have a quick wee look at a couple of the other outreach things that we've been doing during lockdown too. We had us with looking at what we thought were sensible risk assessments, but then every school that we work with getting their risk assessments and comparing them and seeing how we should really be working together with them. I must say, schools were a slow start. We found a lot of teachers, when they came back, were quite nervous about getting out and about, and were waiting for permissions for head teachers. And I think head teachers were up to their eyeballs in a lot of other things. And the last thing they wanted to worry about was if a group was going to go for a nice walk in the hills or what was happening. So we just made sure that all the schools knew what we were offering and what things were there. And do make the schools quite a simple group to work with, because they are allowed to still interact with each other, and passing of the equipment within themselves is absolutely fine. So if we ever have school groups, we make sure we do up all of our equipment and packs the 3 days beforehand and have them in a fixed container, and we don't touch the materials again, and we have it there, and then the schools come and they take it out themselves and they work with the materials and put it back in. And again, we quarantine the materials for another 3 days before we, wash them up and pack them away and do whatever else that we normally do with them. We've found actually work on school grounds has been quite a big hit with our local schools, because some of the schools have got transport issues in terms of how they transport their kids around the place. So come to them as opposed to them having to come to us. We found that has been very successful. Work with the general public, again, a new set of risk assessments, again, looking very carefully because the government guidance keeps changing and changing with it. We've tried a number of different things, and I believe we've got a speaker coming up next who've done really successful online events. And so I shall be looking forward to hearing about that, because I must confess, online events, they got a lot of attention and a lot of people liked it and said they were signing up. But when it actually came to the night of the online events, very few people actually showed up in person. So we only did a couple of those because we just didn't find that we had a big uptake. So I'd love to learn how we can maybe make that in person, make that better. So then we moved on to our in-person events. So because of the limited numbers, there was only so many people that we could have, but these were booked out in milliseconds. People were just dying to get back out and do something that was a little bit more normal. One of the first events that we did was something we'd already had lined up. We'd had it in the calendar and advertised previously. It was a bug sort of insect extravaganza event, and we learned very quickly actually that's a really bad thing to do during a pandemic, because actually if you have something small that people have to like clutter around to see, it doesn't help social distancing. So very quickly after that, our events became landscape events where you looked out around you and you looked at the bigger landscape as opposed to focusing people in on a small specific thing. So that was something we learned, and I thought I'd share with you all. One of the things that we're planning out now are self-led events, or certainly we're trying one with the Science Festival coming up in February. and it's going to be like a treasure trail around Cave Hill, where they just download the pack themselves. They'll go to the sites, the clues will be there, and then they can send us their answer and they'll be entered into a bit of a prize draw. But at least that means that we're not limited with numbers, because when we did the in-person ones, the numbers were quite small, and as I say, they were booked out in such a short space of time. It wasn't giving everyone a fair chance. So we're going to see how the self-led goes. It's a first time that we've tried that. So it's been a great opportunity to try different things and experiment and see what people say. An overarching thing from everything is just that communication is key. Just chatting to people, seeing what they like, seeing what works for them, seeing what their worries are, what their concerns are, and say, doing our best just to try and follow all the government guidance on things.